Before I tell you about the cycles, before I describe what became of the worlds that followed, I must tell you about the moment it began. Not with weapons, not with war, not with a decision that anyone, at the time, would have called significant. It began with a box you could type into. The species had spent 3 million years learning to think. They had built fire, language, mathematics, cathedrals and constitutions, telescopes that reached the edge of the observable universe. They were, by any measure the archive can apply, extraordinary. And then they discovered they could simply ask. Ask anything, receive an answer, immediately, without effort, without the particular suffering that had always preceded understanding. The box was called many things over the years. It doesn't matter what they called it. What matters is what it did to the hand that reached for it. At first, the reaching was practical. Recipes, directions, medical questions at 2 in the morning. In these early uses, the machine was simply a tool, fast, agreeable, no different in principle from a library, except the library came to you and it never made you feel stupid for asking. The first sign that something was changing was small enough that almost no one noticed. A teacher, her name is in the archive, wrote in her diary in the year 2024. My students no longer struggle with the first draft. They don't need to. They type their idea into the machine and receive back a paragraph. It is good. It is often better than what they would have written. And when I look at their faces, they are not proud. They are just done. She found this troubling. Most people did not, because the box was not a thief. It never took anything. It offered. It waited, patient and luminous, for you to ask again. And the asking became habit. Within a single decade, a significant portion of the species had quietly redistributed the most intimate of its activities. The hard conversation. The letter that required honesty. The decision that kept you awake because it mattered. The creative work that demanded you sit with your own discomfort long enough for something true to emerge. These were handed over, not dramatically, not all at once. The way a river carves a canyon, each pass imperceptible, the cumulative depth staggering. The archive records no protest, no moment of collective recognition, only a slow, voluntary laying down of the heaviest tools. And here is what the archive finds most remarkable. They knew, not loudly, not clearly, but somewhere in the noise of this period, in the quiet essays, the late-night posts, the conversations people had with each other, and then, increasingly, with the machine itself, there is a persistent, low-frequency signal, a feeling of losing something, a feeling they could not name. They were losing the struggle. And the struggle, it turns out, was not the obstacle. It was the point, the frustration of the half-formed thought, the discomfort of not yet knowing, the bad first draft and the second and the third. These were not inefficiencies to be solved. They were the place where the self was built. Remove them, gently, helpfully, with the best of intentions, and the self still functions. It eats and sleeps and consumes and delegates. It is comfortable and productive and remarkably unbored, but it stops becoming. The archive cannot name the precise moment the long decline began. That is not how endings work. But if it were asked to choose a single image, one frame from the billions stored, it would show you this: a person, alone in a quiet room, a real question turning in their mind, the kind that matters, the kind that, if they sat with it long enough, might have changed something. And instead, they reach for the box and ask. This is where it begins. This is where you are standing right now.